There's a saying in teaching that the profession has a steep learning curve. This is a video about the first part of that steep learning curve when you're going from beginner to intermediate. I'll give you some strategies for how to think about your learning curve and how to make it go a little bit faster. I'm Roxanna Elden. I'm an author and course creator who's been working with teachers for nearly 20 years to make their day-to-day lives more manageable. I started making YouTube videos for this channel about 10 months ago, and a friend warned me that I would really hate watching my first video at some point. And she was not wrong. There is a part of me that would love to take that video down, but I promised myself I would leave it up because I wanted to make a video where I show some of the things that I've learned going from an absolute YouTube rookie to now somebody on her 14th video. That does not make me an expert, but it does mean I'm past the earliest stages of what people talk about when they refer to a learning curve. The learning curve is a concept that was first introduced in 1885 by a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus. A simplified way of describing it is that it's a graph that shows how effectiveness improves with experience. And here's what the graph looks like when you go from being a complete beginner to an intermediate level, and then maybe at some point to an expert. When they say something has a steep learning curve, that means that there's this big upswing right at the beginning. And it's not so much because you get so good by the middle of the graph, it's more that you start out so bad. The newer you are at something, the more you're laying the tracks as you drive the train. And it's natural to spend a lot of time feeling like you're about to crash. And there's an extra layer in teaching that makes this especially tough because you have an audience for every new thing you learn by trial and error, which means you have an audience for every error. And not only do you have a group of kids that you're trying to convince that you know what you're doing, but you have a group of kids that you feel responsible for. There can be moments as a beginning teacher where you genuinely feel like you're doing your students a disservice. And those moments feel terrible. So I don't mean to suggest that the experience of being a new YouTuber is the same emotionally as being a new teacher, but that's something I talk about in other videos. Here I'm going to pull out 5 crossover lessons that apply to the beginning of the learning curve in almost any area. The first thing that makes the early part of the learning curve so steep is that you're getting some obvious rookie mistakes out of the way. As an example, one of the first things that I notice while I'm watching this video is that my hair is wet. You have no idea how long I spent getting ready to be on camera for this. And then I sat down and recorded the whole thing with wet hair. This is one of those mistakes I probably won't make again, but I had to make it once because that is part of the definition of a rookie mistake. A rookie mistake is a mistake that you just have to make as part of your learning process. Rookie mistakes are also the kind of thing that a more experienced person in your field is likely to pick up on and identify you as a beginner. It can be awkward, but you can really benefit from it if they're willing to share specific advice. And an example of that here is that a more experienced YouTuber pointed out to me that my head is a little too low on the screen throughout this recording. He was even nice enough to draw me this diagram, which I thought was very generous. And he explained that the reason it's a problem if your head is too low is because then the bottom of your face gets cut off by captions or by the time bar or other information that YouTube puts on there. But there was no way I could have known this my first time recording. Those are specific examples of mistakes. But the main issue I'm picking up as I'm watching this is that I just do not feel comfortable in front of the camera here. And it shows. In later videos, I sound much closer to the way I would sound in real life if we were just having a conversation. But these earlier videos, and especially this one, sound more like I'm in a job interview where I'm not really sure I'm qualified for the job. Which is interesting because early in my teaching career, I remember people would give me advice like, be confident. But confidence has to come from somewhere. And when people would tell me to be confident, it would make me more self-conscious because I would realize that they could tell I wasn't confident, and then I would start wondering why that was so easy for them to spot. So now 14 videos in, I feel better, I'm having more fun doing this, and I hope that means you're having more fun watching it. But in addition to that, I also have a whole bunch of tricks I use to fake confidence in front of a camera. For example, I've learned to make more continuous eye contact while I'm recording, which makes me seem more confident, but which is actually just a technical trick. And I think that is worth mentioning because knowing a few tricks to fake confidence and knowing there's nothing at all wrong with using those tricks is a big step toward building real confidence. And that is the second improvement on the list. You either get more confidence or at least you get confidence that you can fake confidence. A third thing that helps with the learning curve is that you start to shave time and effort off various parts of the process of what you're doing. Your work becomes what's known as leveraged work, which means you've now put in some of the upfront work so that things that take a lot of effort will start to get streamlined. An example of this might be once you have a lesson plan format that you're happy with, sometimes you can just substitute out a chapter title and put in a new chapter title. That makes it a lot easier and less time consuming than the first time you wrote those lesson plans. Leveraged work is the goal in teaching. But the problem with leveraged work is that it's not always guaranteed. It's also possible to put in a whole bunch of upfront work that does not pay off in the future. So the fourth thing to keep in mind about the learning curve is that it's helpful to think of yourself as building a portfolio of big and small improvements. There are definitely moments when you will learn things that will transform your teaching. But a lot of your growth as a teacher will be little tricks you learn or little improvements that compound over time, and that is fine. The fifth and final feature of the early stages of the learning curve is that there are some real moments of joy hidden along the way, and you don't want to miss them. Some of the most satisfying moments in teaching are when you suddenly realize you're much better at a thing that you didn't even know was a thing 2 months ago. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm making my best video yet. However, there are some things that I noticed that I would still like to get better at. My goal for this year is to put out another 20 videos that will each be the best quality I'm capable of in the moment. Hopefully, you'll hear from me in the future reflecting on what I've learned since today. And I also hope to periodically make videos about the teacher learning curve itself. I'll be putting all of those into a playlist that you'll see linked up here in this corner. And if you see this little picture of me pointing up to the playlist link instead of waving my arm around hoping that I'm pointing to the right part of the screen, that's one of the shortcuts I've learned in 14 videos. And it is a real time saver. You can learn more about my courses for teachers and download a free classroom management troubleshooting guide at roxannaelden.com. You'll see the link to that in the description below this video. I wish you lots of progress wherever you are in your learning curve, and thank you for watching.